In the spotlight tonight is Paul Emerson from East Sussex, a pensions administrator, and his specialist subject is the history of Victorian Britain from 1837 to 1901. Jeremy Owenson from Cheltenham, a management consultant whose subject is Deep Purple. Peter Hallam from South Yorkshire, a retired probation officer, and his subject is the life and times of Winston Churchill. And Lynn Ashcroft from Lancashire, a systems analyst who has chosen the post-war history of science fiction as her subject. Hello, I'm John Humphreys and welcome to Mastermind. You know the rules by now, I dare say. Each contender will be asked questions on their chosen specialist subject in round one and on general knowledge in round two. And they have 2 minutes for each. The one with the highest score at the end of the round goes through to the next round of Mastermind and a chance to become Mastermind 2003. So, may I have our first contender, please? Your name?
Paul Emerson.
And your occupation?
Pensions Administrator.
And your chosen subject?
History of Victorian Britain, 1837 to 1901.
And you have 2 minutes on that, starting now. In May 1840, the Post Office issued 2 adhesive postage stamps for general use. The penny black and which other?
2 penny blue.
Correct. In 1853, half a century of transporting British convicts to which island came to an end?
Tasmania.
Correct. Which sportsman in a fit of depression shot himself at his Newmarket home on the 8th of November 1886 at the age of 29?
Pass.
Founded in 1869 as the College for Women in Hitchin, which Cambridge college moved to the village whose name it now bears?
Girton.
Correct. At what rate did Robert Peel reintroduce income tax as a temporary measure in 1842 to avoid a budget while carrying out major tariff reforms?
It was 7 pence in the pound, over £150.
Indeed. What links Queen Victoria with Edward Oxford in 1840, John Francis in 1842, Arthur O'Connor in 1872 and Roderick Maclean in 1882?
Well, they were unsuccessful attempts on her life.
Correct. From which port did the Great Britain leave for New York on her maiden voyage on the 26th of July 1845?
Bristol.
No, Liverpool. Which conservation organisation received as its first donation 4.5 acres of cliff land at Dinas Oloin near Barmouth in Wales?
National Trust.
Correct. The Naval Discipline Act of 1866 limited punishment floggings in the Royal Navy to a maximum of how many lashes?
50.
48. In 1880, which newly elected MP asked to be allowed to affirm rather than take the oath in the Commons but was refused and expelled?
Ian McClough.
No, Charles Bradlaugh. Which Gilbert and Sullivan opera was transferred from the Opera Comique for the opening of the Savoy Theatre on the 10th of October 1881?
Utopia Limited.
No, Patience. In December 1851, who was forced to resign as Foreign Secretary, having approved of a coup d'etat in France without consulting the Queen or Prime Minister?
Lord Palmerston.
Correct. 2-year-old George Parr was admitted as the first patient at which new hospital on the 14th of February 1852?
Great Ormond Street.
It was indeed Great Ormond Street. Paul Emerson, you passed on one question. Which sportsman in a fit of depression shot himself at his Newmarket home? It was Fred Archer. The poor chap was only 29 years old. You scored, Paul Emerson, 8 points. And our second contender, please. And your name is?
Jeremy Owenson.
Occupation?
Management consultant.
And your chosen subject?
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, starting now. When Chris Curtis first got the group together in early '68, under what name did they perform?
Roundabout.
Correct. Which Joe South song, which had been a hit for Billy Joe Royal, did Deep Purple release as their debut single in 1968?
Hush.
Correct. In which country did Roundabout make their live debut in April '68, just before they changed their name to Deep Purple?
Denmark.
Correct. With which orchestra did Deep Purple perform Concerto for Group and Orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall in September '69?
Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
Correct. The band's classic track Smoke on the Water reportedly arose from an incident when a gig by which other artist was halted by fire at the Montreux Casino?
Frank Zappa and the Mothers.
Correct. Which star of television comedy was the part owner of their American record label Tetragrammaton until it went bankrupt in 1969?
Bill Cosby.
Correct. In September 71, which Deep Purple album became the first to go to #1 in the UK album charts?
Fireball.
Correct. When Ian Gillan left the group in June 73, which former Marbles vocalist was his temporary replacement before David Coverdale joined?
Pass.
Which drummer who joined the group in March 68 to replace Bobby Woodman is still in the current lineup?
Ian Pace.
Correct. The live double album released in the UK in January 72 was compiled from tour performances in which country the previous summer?
Japan.
Correct. From which other group were Ian Gillan and Roger Glover both recruited in 1969?
Episode 6.
Correct. From the title of whose favourite song was the name Deep Purple supposedly derived?
Of Richie Blackmore.
Richie Blackmore's grandmother.
Sorry.
Early recordings by Deep Purple were done in the style of which group which had had chart success with You Keep Me Hanging On?
Vanilla Fudge.
Correct. After joining Deep Purple in 69, Ian Gillan sang the lead role in which stage musical in New York?
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Correct. Which member of the current lineup arranged and produced Katrina and the Waves' winning entry in the 97 Eurovision Song Contest?
Roger Glover.
Don Airey. Which Deep Purple guitarist, a member of the group since April 75, died of a reported heroin overdose in Miami in December 76?
Tommy Bolin.
Correct. What was the title of the album released in November 84 by the reformed Deep Purple, which reached #5 in the album charts?
Perfect Strangers.
Correct. You passed on one question when Ian Gillan left the group in 73. It was Graham Bonnet who was his temporary replacement. But, Jeremy Owenson, you scored 14 points. And our third contender, please. And your name?
Peter Hallam,
Occupation?
retired probation officer.
And your chosen subject?
The life and times of Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill, in 2 minutes, starting now. Winston Churchill was born prematurely in 1874 in a small, simply furnished room on the ground floor of which building?
A cottage at Blenheim.
Blenheim Palace, yes.
Yes.
What was the name of the school in Ascot that the 7-year-old Winston was sent to in 1882?
St George's.
Correct. In 1938, Churchill published a collection of his speeches entitled Arms and the Covenant. What title did he originally suggest for the American edition?
A roving commission.
No, The Years of the Locust. Which seat did Churchill decide to fight as a Liberal in the 23 general election, losing to the Labour candidate F.W. Pethick Lawrence?
Leicester West.
Correct. About which post-war Labour minister did Churchill make the basically affectionate quip, "There but the grace of God goes God"?
Stafford Cripps.
Correct. About which people did Churchill say that there were few virtues they did not possess and few mistakes they've ever avoided?
The French.
No, the Poles. What is the title of Churchill's only novel, a Ruritarian romance, which he had published in 1900?
Stavrola.
Correct. What was the name of the vessel that carried Churchill's coffin from Tower Pier to Festival Pier during his state funeral?
Pass.
What was Churchill's first ministerial office, a post he held in Campbell Bannerman's government from December 05 to April 08?
Under Secretary for Colonies.
Correct. On the 28th of November 43, Churchill, Roosevelt and Stalin held their first meeting together in which capital city?
Tehran.
Correct. During the Boer War, Churchill was captured but escaped by climbing over his prison wall from which city?
Pretoria.
Correct. To whom, after she complained that he was drunk, did Churchill supposedly reply that she was ugly, adding that he would be sober in the morning?
I believe it was Lady Astor.
No, Bessie Braddock. The infant Randolph Churchill had two political godfathers. F.E. Smith was one. Which of Churchill's fellow cabinet ministers was the other?
Lloyd George.
No, Sir Edward Grey. What name did Churchill give to the political party he tried to build in support of Edward VIII during the abdication crisis?
Pass.
In 1921, Churchill inherited an estate worth £4,000 a year in rents and revenues. I've started, so I'll finish. From which distant cousin who had died in a rail accident?
Pass.
You passed on 3, including that last one. The distant cousin was Lord Herbert Vane Tempest. The name Churchill gave to his abortive political party was the King's Party. And the name of the ship that carried Churchill's coffin from Tower Pier to Festival Pier was the Havengore. So, Peter Hallam, you passed on 3. You've scored 8 points. And our fourth contender, please. And your name is?
Lynn Ashcroft,
And your occupation?
systems analyst,
And your chosen subject?
post-war science fiction.
Post-war science fiction in 2 minutes, starting now. Described as the father of magazine science fiction, after whom were the annual Hugo Awards named?
Hugo Gernsback.
Correct. Which Frederick Brown novel of 1949 satirised the clichés used in many of the science fiction novels of the day?
Pass.
What is the title of Arthur C. Clarke's first published novel, which outlined a future with, amongst other objects, communication satellites?
The Satellite.
No, Prelude to Space. How many stories were contained in the Isaac Asimov collection I, Robot in 1950?
9.
Correct. The opening words of which Ray Bradbury novel are 1 minute it was Ohio winter with doors closed, windows locked, the panes blind with frost?
The Martian Chronicles.
Correct. Which Marvel Comics character worked for the US Defense Department's nuclear research facility in New Mexico where he designed the G-bomb?
Bruce Banner.
Correct. Who wrote The Night of the Triffids, the 2001 sequel to The Day of the Triffids?
Pass.
Who directed the 73 film Soylent Green, which highlighted social and economic problems in a futuristic environment?
Stanley Kubrick.
No, Richard Fleischer. Which novel co-written by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson was turned into both a film and a television series?
Pass.
Which Steven Spielberg film was based on the Brian Aldiss short story Super Toys Last All Summer Long?
Toy Story. No, sorry.
Artificial Intelligence. First published in '83, what was the title of Terry Pratchett's first Discworld novel?
The Colour of Magic.
Correct. Who played Commander William T. Riker during the entire run of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Jonathan Frakes.
Correct. Which science fiction writer created the character Jerry Cornelius, a messiah for the modern age?
Michael Moorcock.
Correct. What was the occupation of David Vincent in the 1960s cult television series The Invaders?
He was an architect.
Correct. Which comic that has featured the characters Nemesis, the Warlock, Torquemada and Slain was first published in '77? You can take a moment to think about that one.
2000 AD.
It was indeed 2000 AD. You passed on 3 questions, the novel co-written by Nolan and Johnson, and they made it into both a film and a television series was Logan's Run. The Night of the Triffids was written by Simon Clarke, and the Frederick Brown novel of 1949 satirising all those terrible cliches was What Mad Universe? You passed on 3, as I say. Lynn Ashcroft, you scored 9 points. Well, that brings us to the end of our first round on specialist subjects. So let's look at the scores at this stage. In 4th place on 8 points and 3 passes is Peter Hallam. In 3rd place on 8 points and 1 pass is Paul Emerson. In 2nd place on 9 points, Lynn Ashcroft. In the lead with 14 points, Jeremy Owenson. So on to round 2 and general knowledge. If there is a tie at the end of this round, then the number of passes will be taken into consideration, and the contender with the fewest passes will be declared the winner. If there's still a tie on points, then there will be a 5-question play-off. So on with the general knowledge rounder. Let me first ask Peter Hallam to join us again, if he would. And you scored 8 points, Mr. Hallam, on
Yes.
Winston Churchill, a remarkable man, obviously, but I wonder what sort of politician he'd make if he were around today in this climate. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he also was an MP for about sort of 24, so he came in very early, had a private income, and had lots of very human characteristics. So whether politicians today are more bland, I don't know.
Well, as I say, human characteristics, that's one way of putting it. He was drunk a lot of the time.
Well, yes. He enjoyed it.
Let's move on to your general knowledge questions. You've 2 minutes, as ever, with these, and that 2 minutes starts now. Which member of the pigeon family can have as many as 42 tail feathers?
Fantail pigeon.
Correct. Which British seaside landmark was commissioned by the local mayor John Bickerstaff and built between 1891 and 1894?
Blackpool Tower.
Correct. Which actor played Doug Roberts, the architect of the Glass Tower, in the film The Towering Inferno?
Pass.
Marvin Lee Aday is the real name of which rock singer?
Pass.
Which French footballer was voted 2003 PFA Player of the Year?
Zinedine Zidane.
No, Thierry Henry. The Soviet spy master Carla was the adversary of which fictional British intelligence officer?
Bond.
No, George Smiley. In which cathedral city in Staffordshire was the lexicographer Dr. Samuel Johnson born in 1709?
Lichfield.
Correct. Which planet has a surface temperature of over 460 degrees Celsius, the highest of any planet in the solar system?
Saturn.
No, Venus. Weighing 3.25 grams, which is the lightest coin currently in circulation in Britain?
The penny.
No, the 5-pence piece. Which Italian liqueur is made from the fruit of the elderberry, flavoured with licorice and usually served with a burning coffee bean?
Pass.
In calculating interest, what do the initials APR stand for?
Approximate something rate.
No, annualised percentage rate. Which is the second largest of the Balearic Islands?
The second largest is Minorca.
Correct. Which composer's Polish works include more than 10 polonaises and about 55 mazurkas?
Chopin.
Correct. Which Oscar-winning composer and pianist wrote the music for the Broadway show A Chorus Line?
Pass.
Which gas with the chemical formula C3H8 is widely used as bottled fuel gas?
Pass.
Which British general died in 1759 at the age of 32 on the battlefield of the Plains of Abraham, having achieved the end of French rule in Canada?
Wolf.
Correct. Which popular garden flower derives its name from the Latin for wolf?
Lupin.
The lupin is correct. You passed on 5 questions. The gas that's used as bottled gas is propane, the Oscar-winning composer. The chorus line one, that is, was Marvin Hamlish. Marvin Learday is the real name of, well, Meatloaf.
Right.
You're not a fan, clearly.
I'm not,
You're
no.
not a fan. The Italian liqueur made from the fruit of the elderberry, flavoured with licorice and served with a burning coffee bean, Sambuca. And the actor who played Doug Roberts in The Towering Inferno was Paul Newman.
Right.
Mr. Hallam, you have now gone up to a total of 15 points. And would Paul Emerson now take the chair again? Well, you got 8 points as well, Mr. Emerson, with only 1 pass. You're a marathon man,
Yeah.
I gather.
That's right, I've done 29 marathons.
29?
Done London 4 times.
Good heavens. I'd expect you to be as thin as a rake. Now, I'm not being unkind here, but...
That was in my youth, up to about 1990.
And what is it about Victorian Britain that fascinates you?
I think that's when Britain was actually great. That's the time that Britain actually ruled the world and covered the world. A third of the world was pink. That would be the time during Victorian times.
So you feel nostalgia for those
Yeah.
days? You'd have preferred to live then, would you?
Only if I was rich.
Very good answer, yeah. Right, let's see how you are on general knowledge, having scored 8 in the last round. You have 2 minutes starting now. Pure gold consists of how many carats?
24.
Correct. Who, when she became Prime Minister of Pakistan in 1988, became the first woman leader of a Muslim nation in modern history?
Benazir Bhutto.
Correct. Which 1927 film was the first to feature synchronised speech as well as music and sound effects?
The jazz singer.
Correct. Which word for riding breeches comes from the name of a former state in northwest India?
Joppa.
Correct. Cagliari is the capital of which Mediterranean island?
Sardinia.
Correct. In mathematics, what's represented by a symbol resembling a figure of 8 lying on its side?
Infinity.
Correct. Which batsman was appointed England's one-day cricket captain to succeed Nasser Hussain in May 2003?
Michael Trestovic.
Michael Vaughan. Which cathedral attempted to sell its greatest treasure, the Mappa Mundi, to raise funds in 1988?
Hereford.
Correct. Which insect transmits the disease sleeping sickness in humans?
Tsetse fly.
Correct. What was the name of the aristocratic villainess in Dodie Smith's novel, The 101 Dalmatians?
Cruella de Vil.
Correct. Which Frenchman developed the loom named after him, which used punched cards to weave figured patterns?
Jacquard.
Correct. Which many-headed water snake was it Hercules' second labour to kill? The problem being, as soon as he cut off one of its heads, 2 shot up in its place.
Hydra.
Correct. What name is given to a small abscess which forms around the base of an eyelash?
Pass.
Which opera by Gounod about a scholar who sold his soul to the devil was based on a poem by Goethe?
Faust.
Correct. On which island was South Africa's maximum security prison where Nelson Mandela spent 18 years of his prison sentence?
Robben Island.
Correct. Which American state gives its name to a dessert of sponge and ice cream sealed with meringue and baked?
Alaska.
Correct. What name is given to the green patina on copper or bronze which forms on exposure to the atmosphere?
Verdigris.
Correct. Which Scottish region was formed in 75 from the former counties of Lanark, Ayr, Renfrew, Dumbarton, Bute, most of Argyll and parts of Stirling?
Borders.
No, Strathclyde. Which country's monarchy is descended from Jean-Baptiste Jules Bernadotte, one of Napoleon's marshals?
Sweden.
Correct. Which Greek-born artist celebrated painting the burial of Count Orgaz can be seen in the church of Santo Tome in Toledo?
El Greco.
Correct. Well, you passed on one question there. The name given, and you'll know it the minute I tell you, of course, the little abscess formed around the eye is, of course, a sty.
Yeah.
You've obviously had one and thought, and then it didn't come to you. The way it goes, however, you did very well. You had 8 points in your first round. You now have a total, Paul Emerson, of 25 points. And Lynn Ashcroft next, if she would, please. And you scored 9 points in that round, and you were very interested in science fiction. Now, something fascinating about your notes. You told me that they used comics on empty ships coming into Liverpool for ballast.
Yes.
American comics.
Yes, that's what I was always told anyway, because I used to get a lot of comics from market stalls in those days, and that's where they told me they came from, so I was fascinated by that.
How extraordinary. You'd have thought that I thought you used things like sand or water.
I would have thought so as well,
But American politics, the original pulp, I suppose.
I assume it was, yes.
Which were your favourites?
I was always a fan of Marvel comics.
Captain Marvel, you mean?
Not Captain Marvel,
Oh, not
not that
Captain
far back,
Marvel.
I'm afraid. No, Marvel comics were.
You're
the people who
making
did-
me sound terribly
I'm
old, you know,
sorry.
not far, that far.
No, I was a fan of people like Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk and Thor and people like, rather than Superman.
Right, let's get down to the general knowledge section of the quiz. You have 2 minutes, starting now. According to the Sunday Times Rich List for 2003, which writer of children's fiction has overtaken the Queen as the richest woman in Britain?
J.K. Rowling.
Correct. By what name was the 16th century Venetian painter Jacopo Robusti better known?
Canaletto.
Tintoretto. Which Mexican revolutionary gave his name to the type of bushy moustache fashionable in the late 1960s?
Zapata.
Correct. The Bahamas and which other island republic are separated from the Florida Keys by the Straits of Florida?
Bermuda.
Cuba. Which variety of fluorspar or fluorite used as an ornamental stone is mined only in Derbyshire?
Blue John.
Correct. Which operatic character sings the Largo al Factotum, introducing himself and all his skills?
The Barber of Seville.
Yes, Figaro. Which German dish consisting of cabbage allowed to ferment in salt is generally served with sausages?
Sauerkraut.
Correct. The early rules of which racket sport were drawn up by army officers in India in the 1870s?
Badminton.
Correct. In which religion does the Noble Eightfold Path lead ultimately to nirvana?
Buddhism.
Correct. Second Foundation is the third book in which author's science fiction trilogy?
Isaac Asimov.
Correct. What name is given to Mendelssohn's Symphony No. 3 in A minor, inspired by a visit to Holyrood in Edinburgh?
The Edinburgh Symphony.
No, the Scottish Symphony. On which record label owned by Sam Phillips did Elvis Presley make his first recordings?
Capital.
No, Sun. Which inert gas takes its name from the Greek for hidden?
Xenon.
No, Krypton. Cetewayo, who ruled from 1872 until 1879, was the last great king of which people?
The Zulu.
Correct. What term is used for a form of long-sightedness caused by loss of elasticity of the lens of the eye, a defect increasing with advancing age?
Hypertropia.
Presbyopia. Apis mellifera is generally regarded as the only insect that can be domesticated. How is it commonly known?
The honeybee.
Correct. Which character in A Midsummer Night's Dream could put a girdle round the earth in 40 minutes?
Puck.
And it was indeed Puck. You got it in on the 2 minutes precisely. And you had no passes there, Lynn Ashcroft. You had 9 in the first round. You now have a total of 20 points. And would Jeremy Owenson join us now, please? And you scored 14 points, so you are in the lead as we speak, but that could change, who knows. On Deep Purple,
Yes.
you are, can I say an ageing hippie? Is that offensive? I suppose it is, really, isn't it?
Yes.
You were a hippie.
I was, but I lost my hair, unfortunately, so I can't do it anymore.
Do you have to stop being a hippie when you lose your hair? Can you not be a bald hippie? Or a balding hippie, even?
Most of the balding hippies I know are accountants.
So why Deep Purple, then? What was the appeal?
It was unusual in the 80s. All my friends were into new romantics, but I seem to prefer sort of older rock-type music, and not the rock bands from the 80s. It seems to be sort of 60s and 70s stuff that appealed, so I was sort of permanently a bit out of fashion.
And you're still out of fashion.
Getting even more so, I think.
Right, you have 2 minutes on general knowledge, starting now. The town of Fort William stands at the foot of which mountain?
Ben Nevis.
Correct. Which English navigator commanded the first ship known to have crossed the Antarctic Circle?
Pass.
What is the name of the dark biological pigment found in skin, hair, feather, scales, eyes and some internal membranes?
Melanin.
Correct. Which French word for the training of horses is applied to the first stage of the equestrian 3-day event?
Dressage.
Correct. Mukhabarat was the feared intelligence service of which country?
Israel.
No, Iraq. Which very hard granular rock consisting mainly of corundum is widely used as an abrasive?
Sandpaper.
Emery. Singer Jerry Dorsey took what stage name from the composer of the opera Hansel and Gretel?
Pass.
Which 135-metre high London landmark was designed by David Marks and Julia Barfield?
Canary Wharf.
No, the London Eye. In architecture, what name is used for a carved female figure clad in long robes serving as a column?
Pass.
The Ainu were the original inhabitants of which Asian country?
Sri Lanka.
Japan. Which factory near Versailles was established by Madame de Pompadour for the manufacture of porcelain?
Pass.
In which play by Sheridan are Captain Absolute and Bob Acres both in love with Lydia Languish?
Pass.
In which crime fiction author also writes more mainstream novels under the name of Barbara Vine?
Pass.
During World War II, the original copy of the American Declaration of Independence was kept in which top security site in Kentucky?
Fort Knox.
Correct. Which cheese was, according to one legend, invented in Normandy by Marie Harel, who sheltered a priest from Brie at the time of the French Revolution?
Brie.
No, Camembert. At which famous jewellers did Holly Golightly take breakfast, according to the title of the 1961 film?
Tiffany's.
Correct. Which American businessman in the 1930s perfected the electronic keyboard instrument that bears his name?
Singer.
No, Hammond. By what name has the Marriage Guidance Council been known since 1988?
Relate.
Correct. Which American presidential retreat was known as I'll start it, so I'll finish. Which American presidential retreat was known as Shangri-La until 1953, when it was renamed by President Eisenhower after his grandson?
Camp David.
Correct. You passed on 6 questions. The crime fiction author who writes under Barbara Vine is also, of course, Ruth Rendell. In the play by Sheridan, Captain Absolute and Bob Acres both love Lydia Languish, and the play is The Rivals. The factory near Versailles, established by Madame de Pompadour, was Sèvres. In architecture, the name used for a carved female figure clad in a long robe serving as a column is the caryatid. Singer Jerry Dorsey took the name Engelbert Humperdinck. The English navigator who commanded the first ship known to have crossed the Antarctic Circle was Captain Cook. So, 6 passes. You scored 14 points in your first round. Jeremy Owenson, you now have 21 points. Well, at the end of the general knowledge round, let's look at the scores. In 4th place, with 15 points, is Peter Hallam. In 3rd place, with 20 points, Lynn Ashcroft. In 2nd place, with 21 points, Jeremy Owenson. And in 1st place, with 25 points, he came from behind to win, is Paul Emerson. So that means that Paul Emerson goes through to the next round. Congratulations to him. Do join us next time for more Masterminds. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
A trip around formal French gardens reveals stories of passion and power tonight at 9 in a new series from Monty Don. On the way next today, we're recalling the real history of Britain's roaring 1920s.